I am joined by Robert Griffin III, James Whitefield, Yes Minekeims.
All right, so first play we're going to look at, 2nd and 2, one of the Patriots' first offensive plays.
What's going on, everyone? Mike Kadlick, Taylor Kyles here. Yeah, pretty good timing now.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, what? I like the delay.
Yeah, no delay anymore, people. We got a new computer in the Kadlick household, and we have a new episode of the Patriots Daily Podcast here for you, presented by CLNS Media, powered by Prize Picks and Game Time. We did a post-game show last night recapping our instant reaction to the Patriots 34-16, 31-16, 34? 34-15. I got it. It's right in front of me. It's right in front of me, too. Not using my resources here. But we're going to recap it with Taylor's film study, with some quotes and notes from Maye this morning, and some pressing Patriots news that just came in about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. So we got about an hour to hit everything. So we're going to go as fast but as thorough as we can, Taylor. So let's start with the obvious. Jabril Peppers, earlier this afternoon, reinstated by the NFL. Removed from the commissioner's exempt list, as plenty of you know. Peppers was arrested back in October for alleged assault and alleged cocaine possession as well. Now, he obviously pleaded not guilty to that, was in court last week, and Mike Reese was actually there. So he has a lot of this information for me. But essentially, there was some back and forth with his attorney, with the plaintiff's attorney. But Doug Kyed really added some more context to this today in a tweet, mentioning that Peppers was removed from the list because the baseline suspension for a violation like this would be 6 games, and he's already served 7 games. So the league is kind of using that as his suspension. Now, if more details come out, if his jury date set for this January, if anything else happens, the NFL essentially said they reserve the right to actually suspend him. But for now, Peppers is back. So when he was on the list, he was not allowed to be he was not allowed to practice. He was allowed to work out. He was being paid, but he couldn't play in games. Now he's back. He wasn't in the building, as Maye told us. We hadn't seen him around. Now he will be with the team. The Patriots put out a release this afternoon that he will be added back to the active roster. So, Taylor, your thoughts on Peppers being back? I know we're not going to really get into the nitty-gritty of this thing, but more so football-wise, right? They struggled yesterday against Miami, so having him back in that secondary will be pretty beneficial. So just your thoughts on Peppers being back with the Peppers. Hopefully, Peppers being back with the Patriots, hopefully, starting this week.
I mean, yeah, we want to tread lightly because this is a very sensitive topic. I think it's significant that Robert Kraft said himself that obviously if Peppers was found guilty, he'd be off the team. So it's kind of really weird middle ground there right now where we've heard from the Patriots they're going to have him around and he is going to be in the building, but we still don't know for certain because obviously a ruling hasn't passed down. So It's a little weird there just from my perspective, but in terms of the X's and O's, the player and all those kinds of things, I mean, it's another big boost, kind of like Christian Barmore, where obviously, there's going to be some rust that Barmore's knocking off where it's like the pad level. Sometimes the strikes aren't really accurate. Like it's some things he's got to get under his belt again before he can return to that ship that he was in. Jabril Peppers obviously has been out of football for a month and a half now. Is it 2?
Yeah.
Coming
on 2 months now, basically the whole month of October and then the whole month of November. So
yeah, that's tough. So you're talking like basically training camp. Like that's right. A long time to have missed. So even if he gets in the lineup, I think it's going to be one of those situations where it might take him a couple weeks before he's really fully back in the swing of things, if he even can really get back to 100% before the end of the season. But when I think of Peppers and what the defense has lacked without him, I think their big nickel package, we've been talking about how they've been using more base. They used 1 snap of base against the Dolphins last week because Maye said we got to match speed with speed. We kind of figured, base has been working better for them, but maybe they will go back to their 3 safety package, especially because Kyle Duggar's back in the fold. Going to get to him more later. But, it's kind of forced some guys to be in roles where they don't typically excel, where Jabril Peppers was your slot corner in those 3 safety packages. And obviously him as a blitzer and just being stout at the point of attack, no one else really brings that other than Kyle Duggar. And Kyle Duggar was used as a linebacker. So now you have some more flexibility where ideally guys can be put in spots where they succeed, where maybe you have Marte Mapu deep because as I've said, I cannot stand when they use him near the line of scrimmage against runs. I just don't really think he holds up very well the effort's there. He cares, but it's just he's not the biggest guy. Del Pettis on the smaller side, really more of like a tight end eraser kind of guy. And then Jalen Hawkins can do a little bit of everything. He's not really quite as limited, but none of them make the same impact that Peppers does as a run defender. Even Duggar, I don't think, really has that same level of impact, in his role. So would be big for the run defense. I think big for the communication as well on the back end. Obviously, a captain, someone who has coordinated that secondary for a long time, was their primary free safety. So calling a lot of those signals there. So it would be, again, a really big boost if he's able to contribute, even like 65, 70% what he was when he was on the field.
Yeah, Peppers, a captain, like you said, something that he was in that the falling of all these Patriots captains. David Andrews, Jerwan Bentley out for what looks like the season, at least for Andrews, maybe not Bentley, but this situation happens with Peppers. Now he comes back, can hopefully add to that secondary. We'll see what happens. Like you said, I wonder if he gets back at it as soon as this Sunday. At least according to the team, he's going to be on the active roster. But, as far as a ramp-up period, right, he hasn't been in the building. I'm sure, I would assume, as an athlete that he is, he's been working out on his own, but hasn't really been around the guys, hasn't been around the team. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, that is the news around Peppers being added to the Patriots active roster, taken off the commissioner's exempt list today, reinstated by the NFL. All right, let's get into some of these Patriots-centric storylines following yesterday's loss, Taylor, because obviously they get embarrassed yesterday. That was the buzzword around it. We talked about it on the show last night. Just not good football all around. Defense struggled, offense struggled, penalties, mental errors, things of that nature. Now, something that came out of yesterday's game or, the locker room thereafter, reports from Andrew Callahan of the Boston Herald, reports from Mark Daniels from Mass Live, that there was a lighter feeling in the locker room that, in some corners, like Drake Maye was upset, head down, not pleased with it. And according to these reports, in other corners, players smiling, joking, the sense is, not really caring about what's going on and what happens. Patriots losing their second in a row, putting out that embarrassing showing on the field. So you were down there, so I want to get your thoughts on what you saw from this. And also, I guess if you think it really matters, right? Because there's two sides of this where, I look at it and I think it's a bad look, because a lot of it is an image thing. When the locker room is open to reporters, it's an image, and it's what you're portraying, what your team looks like. And that's why Bill Belichick was so, stingent on this, right? When the locker room's open, and don't say anything to reporters, and only speak for yourself, don't speak for others. There was really a calculated effort to, show that image. And I think that's obviously been lost with this new regime where, Mayo's kind of stepping on his words a lot, and players are saying more and things of that. And that may have leaked out yesterday where, it's almost like, just show you're mad when the media is in the room. But regardless, I don't know how much it really matters. I wanted to get your thoughts on it since you were down there and kind of give your take on it.
Yeah, I mean, there were just a couple storylines that came out of that game in terms of the post-game things and some of Mayo's comments or whatever that, I mean, me, I'm a bit of a contrarian when it comes to the drama. And I try to make sure that I'm at least like listening to others and making sure that I'm not just living in my own bubble. And I will say, I do respect the opinions of the people who were here during the second dynasty and even the first dynasty, obviously, because they've seen what those locker rooms look like. And I'm sure that's coming from a place where they have a standard set in their minds and they're now seeing something different. And even we know last year, after those losses, it felt like after every single one, it felt more and more like a funeral, right? Where it just felt like guys were mentally drained. They didn't really, I won't say they didn't want to be there, but there was just a sense of like, geez, I can't wait until this is over. That's how people were saying. It just was so glum. Now this year, I know James White, I'm glad he tweeted it out before the show started because he said, hey, it's a new generation of players. I wouldn't read too much into it because we do know, one, it's new generation, and also Gerard Mayo is a new kind of coach where he's not going to necessarily always be like, hey, be buttoned up. You got to have this type of image for the media. He wants guys to be themselves, and you kind of step on your foot if you want to encourage guys to be themselves, and then you want to give them instructions of being like, yeah, but when the media is around, do this. Then it's like, okay, well, now I'm getting mixed signals. Now, that is a philosophy that Gerard Mayo is going to have to live with. Like with McVay, he's very similar. He likes to give his players freedom. He likes them to be open. He has a track record of success. So if he, like this season where they're stumbling, he's not going to be, Sean McVay on the hot seat. It's okay. It's a rough year. They're a young team, and all honestly sounds kind of familiar. Young team, a lot of growing pains that come with that.
Right.
This is a philosophy that Mayo's going to have to deal with and all the backlash that comes with it. Me personally, when I was in the locker room, you're talking about guys that were laughing. I'm thinking like DeMario Douglas. I know Vidarian Lowe and DeMontre Jacobs were pretty light with each other, but also like that's just how some of these guys are. And I know people aren't going to like that. And I know I've seen people even in the chat say everybody who laughed needs to get benched. Like, come on. Yep. As long like Mayo said when he spoke to the team, he did not feel a lack of disappointment in the loss. Didn't seem like there was a sense of non-accountability. Some guys, especially because this was a blowout that was pretty much decided. Obviously, there were a couple plays where you're thinking, okay, like the San Francisco game, maybe if they are perfect, they can make this work. But we all know that by halftime, basically, I know all the reporters were sitting, eating our tenders saying, this is about preserving dignity. Just don't embarrass yourself. And frankly, I know they pulled Tua. I know people say like, they weren't even trying at the end. I don't think that's true. I genuinely think the defense did play better. The Patriots outscored them 15-10. Obviously, like I understand it's not the biggest deal in the world because they got outscored 24-0 in the second quarter alone. But I did think they showed some resilience in the fight and all the things that we've said where you can say that you don't like Mayo and you can complain about all these things, but you can't say that they've quit in any of these games, which I think is the most important part for a young coach where next year, this roster is probably going to look a whole lot different. And also, when you look at the guys who I think you kind of think of as being the biggest culprits, they're guys who are either very young and inexperienced or they're just replacement level guys. Again, I think at some point with this being a blowout, where mentally it's not like the losses where you're losing on the final drive. Those are such a gut punch where emotionally you're locked.
And those have felt like that in the locker room this year. The Miami game.
Literally just last week.
Right. The Miami game where Jalen Polk, we thought he got in the end zone and then he didn't. And they end up not winning that game because of, the toe drag in the end and stuff like that. Like those were somber locker rooms because it was close, because it was tight. And I like that you mentioned the like how it was when the old dynasty and the old, under Belichick and Doug also, we're going back to another Doug Kai tweet, but he tweeted earlier that, his opinion on it, like it was different covering the dynasty era because it felt like he tweeted, it's hard to describe just how depressing the post-game locker rooms was because losses were so few. They were so few and far between. So when it happens, it's like, oh shit, we actually just lost this game. But also the repercussions were a lot worse, right? It wasn't going from 3-8 to 3-9. It was going from, 12-4 to 12-5 and missing the 1 seed, or it was being knocked out of the playoffs. So like there's levels to it. Now, you shouldn't not care. Like, and that's why I don't fully think that it's, it's a non-issue and a non-story, but some of it's like, let's realize what this team is. And also, Mayo's going to have to sort of continue to rebuild this thing and reset the culture. And he said it today too, in his day after press conference where, he knows that those guys were upset. So that's kind of where we'll go with this as well. Did you have anything? I know we wanted to do the culture thing, and he mentioned today, he never thought that he was going to be able to reestablish this culture in 1 year and that it is a process.
He's been saying that this entire time. Everyone's been saying that this entire time. It was not a 1 year rebuild.
Yep. And so that kind of goes from the locker room thing to the culture that they're setting where I kind of just wanted to get your thoughts even more on like that quote where it's not going to be a one and done. And there's sort of they need to reset this thing, but it's going to be on their own terms. And it's not just going to be all of a sudden, A, we're the same as a Bill Belichick led team years ago, but B, we're all of a sudden, this is Gerard Mayo's team and this is exactly who we are. And you're going to know it. Like there isn't really a full identity yet. And I think that's okay.
I agree. And when you talk about the dynasty era Patriots, like you had the best coach of all time, the best quarterback of all time, there was a different standard. That culture wasn't made overnight either. Like you had 2000 and that wasn't a great season for the Patriots. Obviously, Tom Brady and that defense dominating or able to win a Super Bowl in 2001, of course. But again, that contributed to the standard that was set. And when you had guys like Bruschi, like McGinnis, like Chris Price tells us all the time, there's a corner of the locker room where to leave, you would have to basically walk through all of the scariest people on the Patriots defense. And they'd be like, oh, you sure you want to go home? You sure about that?
Yeah, right.
He'd be like, No, you go back and put your stuff
You
down.
go back and you go and get another pump.
I literally used to work with Willie McGinnis. He's one of the scariest MFers I've ever met in my life. He was always very kind to me. But I remember we got into an argument once over like a Jets coverage where I'm telling him, like, Willie, I think this is cover 4. And he started to get a little frustrated with me. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take my L. It doesn't matter. It's not worth
right.
It's very different now. And now this year you talk about like who are the more intimidating people? It's like Bentley, it's David Andrews. Obviously, they're still in the locker room, and I'm sure, if they want to say something about it and they're very upset with it, they'll speak up and say something. But I just think we do need to understand what this is. And that as much as we want everybody to be fully bought in and we want them to be like, you know what? No, I don't care that we're booty. Like, I want us to, we're going to take this not necessarily take it so seriously. And I think they get coached hard as well. Like, we don't see it, but everything we ever hear from the building is like, no, Mayo like kind of puts them through it. Obviously, he has lighter days of practice, but this is a guy from a military family who was the linebacker and captain for what was perennially one of the best defenses in football. I do not think he's just laying over and being like, hey, do what you want, but I do think he wants them to have some level of autonomy. Now, Drake Maye is trying to help set the culture, right? He's saying, remember this feeling. He's the one who looks dejected. Right. He's the one who's holding these offensive meetings. Like, you're starting to see it take shape, but it will take time. Frankly, it's going to take you winning some games as well. So guys really are bought in because it's tough to be fully invested team-wide. I'm not saying that's okay. And when we've seen guys play poorly, what happens? And we're going to talk about that later. Marco Wilson's been cut. Raekwon McMillan's been cut. Nick Leverette's been cut. It's not like they're just resting on their laurels and let guys do whatever the hell they want. You will get cut if you are not meeting their standard of play, or you will get benched. So, we're going to get more on that.
Yeah, we'll
later,
get into that.
I just think we need every week to have a level of like, let's come together and remember what the season is. Now, I will say, next week needs to be like the week after the
Jaguars game
against the Jets. Yeah, it needs to be. Mayo is saying this was not good enough. Like, we need to do so much better, and you need to respond. If you don't, then these things they might snowball. You go into the bye week having lost what will be 3 in a row, and that's going to be a very bad look where I'm not going to have a whole lot to say. Because at that point, I'm like, yeah, and now you're about to face a murderous row of quarterbacks and offenses and just well-coached teams.
Right.
Yeah, you're in a pretty bad spot, but I hope they respond this weekend, and we will see if they do. But if they do, it will continue a pattern of when their backs are truly against the wall this season, they have responded and they have played harder for their coach and more disciplined. We'll see if they can do it again.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating. This coming weekend is obviously this Indy game. It's really what many feel like is their one winnable game left on the schedule. You have Arizona coming. Obviously, the Chargers play tonight, but they're in the playoff picture right now. A couple Buffalo games, and then the season's already over. I can't believe we only have 5 games left. It's as slow as it's been. I feel like it's also kind of flying by the fact that we're already at Thanksgiving. You mentioned in that culture segment. The idea of Mayo coaching these guys hard. And I think that kind of dovetails well into our next thing, which is these lineup changes. So I want to get into all that. But before we do, I also want to talk about our friends at Prize Picks because Prize Picks is the best place to get real money. Sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks makes it easy to play daily fantasy sports. It's accessible to all. All you got to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. So if you want to join us, run your game all season long on Prize Picks. They put their members first, which is awesome. You have your withdrawals are fast, they're safe, they're secure. If your picks hit, you get your money in as little as 15 minutes. The best thing about it, too, they also offer Venmo for quick and easy deposits and withdrawals. So it goes right from Venmo right to your bank. Taco Tuesdays, Flex Fridays, all that good stuff. We have our weekly primetime games and Patriots Daily and Patriots lineups posted on our social medias. I'm also going to start hitting some Celtics games as well. Just posted my lineup today. Kristaps Porzingis is back for Boston. Don't have him in the lineup yet, but I got some Drew Holiday numbers and James Harden with the Clippers as well. So we'll see if those can hit. So sign up on Prize Picks today. Download the app. Use code CLNS. You get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. You don't even need to win that $5 lineup. You just got to play it. You get $50 instantly. So come on Prize Picks. Code CLNS. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right. Well, that's Prize Picks. and I have our things wrong. This is kind of fun. Now that I have my new computer, I can actually like produce and not just have my computer running like crazy, looking like it's gonna blow up in front of me. I can play the videos. Yeah, it's wild. But lineup changes. Let's hit those. I know you have a lot of thoughts. I know you wrote something today on CLNSmedia.com about these lineup changes. So if you haven't checked it out, go to Taylor's Twitter or go to CLNSmedia.com. Taylor has a whole thing on it and who could potentially be benched as the Patriots kind of move this thing forward. He was asked today. Another Doug Codd mentioned, because Doug Codd was the one who asked him about this, if yesterday's performance against the Dolphins could bring lineup changes to the mix. And Mayo said yes. And that's all he said. And he smiled back at Doug and was like, yeah, basically, we're going to be benching people. So a lot of mistakes on the offensive line, some mistakes in the back end as well. So I'm just going to give you the floor, and you can kind of go through what you're thinking of this and who you think could potentially be sitting and not in the starting lineup for the Patriots as they move forward.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with the offensive line because I feel like that's the area where they had the most issues. I'm just kind of run this through and you guys can watch as it's going. Now, when Maye was asked about the benching, one of my initial response was, okay, it's like if you're looking at who deserves to get benched, it's probably the tackles, and it's probably Kyle Duggar. But with Vidarian Lowe, my issue was, who do you play if it's not Vidarian? Right. Like literally, even if you kick Mike Nwonu outside, like you're not going to put Sidney Sow at left tackle. You already put Sidney Sow at right tackle, and you don't want to keep moving Mike Nwonu because he's already struggling this season with having to switch back and forth. So my thing with Vidarian Lowe, especially when I look back on it, the penalties got to stop. Unacceptable. Yep. He is top 10 among offensive linemen in penalties, and he's missed 3 full games and only played 11 snaps against the Texans. That just cannot happen, especially in a game like this where you have 3 pre-snap penalties, 3 false starts on top of a hold. Now, I understand Gerard Mayo mentioned sometimes on those holding calls, those are more judgment. But also, if you get beat and you grab somebody, and I can see before the flag even comes out, yeah, you probably deserved it. Now, Vidarian, outside of the penalties, I thought he was fine. He wasn't really challenged that much in pass protection because he was going up against a lot of Emmanuel Ogbah. He's not a really great pass rusher at this point in his career. Trey Jacobs had the tough assignment with Chop Robinson, who's been one of the best pass rushers in the NFL over the last month. So Vidarian, if his discipline improves, then I could continue to say, okay, maybe he can stick around as like that bridge that we've talked about next season. But shooting yourselves in the foot like this, that can't happen. It cannot happen. So need better from Vidarian Lowe in terms of his discipline. And then obviously you would like to see more consistency as a player, but you also kind of know what Vidarian is. You
can live with that. Right. You can live with that inconsistency play-wise. Maye has kind of made that happen over these last few weeks, but the pre-snap penalties and stuff, putting them behind the 8 ball, putting them behind schedule, I agree, is totally unacceptable.
Exactly. Now, the person on the left side who I was more upset with was Michael Jordan. If you actually look, so I think PFF has Vidarian Lowe down with 2 sacks, and I thought that as well, especially when I looked at it initially. I looked back, and I was like, I think Michael Jordan was actually supposed to help him a couple of times. There was one where it looked like I don't think Michael Jordan read it out correctly, and I just think that he was supposed to help on it. The first one he was supposed to help on a twist. The guy came completely unblocked. Vidarian's basically standing there because the defensive tackle was coming at him, and then the looper was untouched. Then there was another rep where it looked like Ramondre Stevenson was picking up a linebacker. Michael Jordan picked him up, and that was the play where Drake Maye got strip sacked because Vidarian didn't have the right leverage and basically had to block him with Sealer already having the inside advantage. Could he have, played it better? I'll ask him. But at the same time, it's very difficult to stop a guy like Zach Sealer when you don't have the chip help you need. You could also see on the other side, I'm going to break down this play later, but you can see on the other side they handled it a little better, which made me think even more. I think that was on Michael Jordan. And we talked about it. Is Cole Strange going to play center? Is he going to play left guard? It sounds like he's going to play center because he's been working with David Andrews. He's been kind of having a different mentality in the classroom and all that. But, I reached the end of it. I was talking for a while. But when I look at this offense, is Ben Brown perfect? No. Ideally, he is, frankly, like your third backup center. Like, he was on the practice squad for a reason with Vegas. But I don't see him as the glaring issue. I see Michael Jordan whiffing on pulls, not sustaining blocks in the run game, not sustaining runs as a pass protector even at times where he got walked into the quarterback multiple times. In the line games are an issue every single week. And most of the time, just from my perspective, it looks like it's more on Michael Jordan a lot of those times than it is on Vidarian Lowe, like what we saw right there. So I think if you're going to replace anybody on the offensive line, and obviously a lot of this has to do with Cole Strange and whether he comes back, we do not have a timeline, just kind of taking it day by day with him. So I don't want to speculate when it'll happen necessarily. But I think if you're replacing somebody on the line, especially on the interior, I think it should be Michael Jordan. Especially because Cole Strange, like, yes, he'll probably struggle against power, but I think he's got better awareness. He's a better run blocker, and he's more athletic. Now, on the right side, this is a tough conversation to have because I'm a big fan of DeMontre Jacobs. He's been put in an impossible position. The guy was undrafted with the Broncos. He was then on their practice squad last year, got cut this offseason, and the Patriots picked him up on waivers. No way they thought he was going to be their starter from week 4 on, right? He's going up against elite pass rushers almost every single week. Like the first full game he had was against Nick Bosa, and we all know how that went. Like the poor guy's been hanging on for dear life, and you want to give him some grace. At the same time, one, you had the penalties, right? He had his own false start. He had his own holding penalty. But Chop took him to town, man. I'm talking like he was whipping. He's whiffing on a lot of his strikes, and that was what really upset me. Like sometimes he's hitting guys in the face. Chop Robinson was just literally waiting for him to shoot his hands a lot of the time. This is the holding penalty. So just not nearly enough consistency. Also not sustaining in the run game. Like way too many immediate losses against Chop Robinson. Again, not an easy matchup. But he got benched for City Show at the end of the game. So we already know that the team is at least thinking of replacing him in the lineup. So those are the really glaring ones, I think, on the offensive side of the ball. I think it's the trenches. Now, the wide receiver stuff, they're going to play the rookies. We know that. It looked like Javon Baker ran the wrong route on one of the few snaps that he ended up playing. Obviously, that's disappointing. Jalen Polk didn't really pop on the screen for me either, so can't really say anything about him. Tight ends are doing what they're supposed to do. Running backs are doing what they're supposed to do. Ramondre looked much better last week than he has in other weeks. Antonio Gibson, I think maybe he's finally healthy. He got a heavier workload, really was a third down back, looked good when he was running the ball. And obviously, Drake May's Drake May. But this offensive line has got to figure it out. Stop with the damn penalties. Yep. Enough. I know it wasn't just them. Like Austin Hooper also lined up offsides. Kayshon Boutte had a pretty blatant offensive pass interference where he literally used 2 hands to push off and then the defender fell down. Like you can't do that. It's not just the line, but that for me was the most glaring issue when it came to, all right, if you're going to make replacements, where are they going to come from?
I mean, like as respectful as possible, like reel it in. Like you said, knock it off. Yep. Stop false starting. Stop holding. Like that's fundamentals. And that's where this coaching versus personnel thing, I think it's not a black and white answer. And I think it's actually a fascinating conversation because, Mayo's getting dragged right now for saying the thing last night where, once you're inside the white lines, like I can't help you, but he's technically right. Like
he's right. That was one of those where I'm just like, what? And then even Jawan Bentley, because they misquoted him, it made it sound like he was basically just throwing guys out to the wolves. Marcus Jones said the same thing. And then I saw comments like, oh, it's just because he's Bill Belichick media trained. That's literally just how it goes. Mayo has said that's going to be his philosophy since he got hired, where I want to give the players accountability because I can't help you when you cross the white lines. And he's right, as we'll get in with Kyle Duggar, where there were times where you could see the defense was prepared and one player would make a mistake that created this ripple effect, So, yeah, I couldn't stand that went viral the way it did because I thought it was just such grasping at straws.
Totally. And I do understand the idea of, and we talked about it last night on postgame where, okay, but what's the consequence? And how do you actually get these guys to not false start? And how do you, hammer it home where, you can't be doing that shit. And Reese talked about it this morning on radio, but we also talked about it here last night. It's like, do you run the hill? Do you get benched? Do you have to do freaking push-ups? Like it sounds like elementary Pop Warner shit, but it's like something has to happen for you to get it through your head to not false start, to not hold, to use your techniques, etc. And so that's where we're at with the offensive line. We'll see if they get benched. We'll see how that works, and we'll see if they can improve on these penalties. But that same thing with blown assignments and coverage, etc. And this conversation around DeMarcus Covington now on the defensive side of the ball. Is it the players? Is it the scheme? Brings us to Kyle Duggar, who struggled on Sunday. And you even tweeted during the game that Duggar should be benched. And this was before the benching conversation came up with Gerard Mayo. And I thought that was, I don't know.
A lot for me.
Well, yeah. Actually, yeah. I thought that was stark to me. That was like, oh shit. If Taylor's saying that Kyle Duggar, veteran, captain, extended player, should be benched, that means that this guy is really, causing a lot of harm for the Patriots. And it could have been the injury, and it could have been, just blown assignments and stuff. And you put him on your list today as well of guys who is, he's a cornerstone on this team, and he is, but He played like crap yesterday, and you have the reasons why. So take us through it. Talk to us about Kyle Dugger and what happened yesterday and where they go moving forward in the secondary.
Yes, when the 3 games that Kyle Dugger missed, like one game in the win against, who is it, the Jets, the safeties got a game ball because they actually played really well. Jalen Hawkins, Del Pettis, and oh my gosh, who's the first? Mapu, thank you. He's been out of the lineup, so it kind of messes with my head. They're good enough, right? They're not Dugger in his prime. They're not Peppers or anything, but they're enough to get you by. And with what I saw from Kyle Dugger, I've never seen a player of his caliber on a defense like this play this kind of game, where it just felt like he had no idea what was going on consistently. And you're just looking around where it's like he's not responding to motion. His eyes are in the backfield on play action, and he's letting guys run right past him for big plays, consistently making mental errors. Now, one play I'm going to bring up in here, I do acknowledge, I think that was the ankle. I don't think it was a mental error, but most of it was mental, and that was what was really discouraging for me because Dugger's been in the league too long to be as undisciplined as he was. Obviously, he missed time, maybe against 2 offenses. Last week, it was more missed tackles, not really communication, it seemed like, for him specifically. But this week, like Rob Mayo said, it's very disappointing when you play a similar offense twice, and you played the Dolphins. Did he play against the Dolphins, actually? I don't know if he did.
I don't know if he did.
I don't know if he did either. But either way, like you
unit as a whole played against something similar, right?
Exactly. You played Tua, you played McDaniel, and Rod Mayo said it was very disappointing. So let me dive into the film, quickly break down the plays where I thought he was at fault. Now, I will say some of these are shared responsibility, and it wasn't just him, but it was more, again, the lack of awareness from a veteran player and a captain and one of your highest paid guys. So Kyle Dugger, man-to-man on Jonnu Smith here. Jonnu Smith, first, he's going to chip help, right? Kyle Dugger sees that and then drops off as if Jonnu's not going to release into his route. By the time he does and realizes he's way too late, Jonnu basically just has to fight his way into the end zone. That was a very glaring mistake. This one was what stood out to me, where everyone always says that they're just not prepared. And it's where I sometimes push back, where, yes, sometimes that's the case. But also, you, like what Mayo says, you cannot control what people do once they are on the field. The mistakes they make are the mistakes that they make. So here, you can actually see that Marcus Jones probably knows what's coming here, because when you see Tyreek Hill go into the backfield with Devon Achane, Marcus Jones is communicating with Kyle Dugger. And the fact that Marcus Jones is over Achane and Kyle Dugger is over Tyreek Hill tells me that Marcus Jones knew there was going to be some kind of cross between them and that they were going to end up releasing to opposite flats. Because otherwise, you would just line up right over Tyreek, but then that might create a pick opportunity, right? And you don't want to do that. You want to give yourself depth so you can cover whoever's coming out of the backfield. And Marcus Jones is absolutely right, because that's what's going to happen. Tyreek Hill is going to come out this way, but then they're going to run screen to Achane this way. Achane killed them in the red zone. Marcus Jones trying to communicate. Kyle Dugger goes with Tyreek instead of Achane. And again, I will say that Aaron Brewer is his lead blocker. Even if Kyle Dugger recognizes this, and he can take on blockers, I'm not acting like he can't, but it is a tough assignment. There's no guarantee that he ends up being able to defend Achane or get around that block. And also, you have Marte Mapu to the bottom right here as one of the extra defenders. He was trying to take away Tyreek. I think this was just a really great play call, honestly, from the Dolphins, compounded by the fact that Dugger didn't do what he was supposed to do. Literal walk-in touchdown for the Dolphins, completely unacceptable, not even a competitive rep. Oh my gosh, what the heck happened there? All right, anyway. Damn, freaking iMovie. All right. Now we're going to focus here on Kyle Dugger and Jalen Hawkins, Devon Achane once again. This time he's actually out of the backfield. The Dolphins love using him all over the formation. Now, when he comes in motion, Jalen Hawkins is communicating to Dugger, hey, move over, move, because something's coming this way. Move. Dugger doesn't even respond. I don't know if he doesn't hear him or what happens here. But you would at least hope that when he sees this motion, he would bump over, right? He doesn't. It takes him too long to respond. Now, this is one of those where it's not just on the player, right? Because Sione Taki is engaged, but he has an opportunity to make this play. You see Devon Gotcha ends up on the ground. Jeremiah Farms can't really get this diagnosed quickly enough to make a play on the ball. And once Achane gets it, like this whole cutback lane is here. Jalen Hawkins ends up getting just buried by 2 guys. This is another time where I'm not positive that Kyle Dugger doing the right thing would have stopped the touchdown. But again, glaring issue that Jalen Hawkins is trying to communicate to him. He doesn't get it, is not competitive on the rep. And then you got DBs trying to fight through offensive linemen. Now, this is the one where I was really like, okay, this is Dugger being hurt, right? The ankle injury affects your change of direction. Although this reminded me a lot of that touchdown that Jalen Waddle scored against them like 2 years ago in Miami.
Oh, yeah.
It was that play before halftime. Yep. And he completely whipped, and then he just ran in for a touchdown. I feel like that's most of Jalen Waddle's production against them. When he pops off, is like somebody messed something up. But you're going to see he's trying to disguise, drop into a cover 2. You're going to get the ball. Can't really redirect. You can see it. You can see when he plants. It's just not what you really want from somebody like that. Yeah. It's tough. So there, I give him some grace. That's tough. Waddle's a good player. Those guys get paid too. And these were just the touchdowns. Like the fact that it looked like Kyle Duggar was at least partially responsible or didn't do the right thing on each one of those red zone scores where the miscommunications ran rampant. And then also when you're outside of the red zone, you were still seeing the same thing and giving up big plays. Extremely discouraging. I don't know if you got to sit Kyle Duggar down, let him heal up, maybe let him get his mind right, whatever it is. But I don't know how you justify putting him back on the field when the younger guys have been working their tails off and played about as well as you could really expect. And Duggar's out here missing tackles one week and the next completely blowing coverage assignments on a consistent basis throughout the game.
Yeah, it's and it's a predicament, and it's different than this is much different than benching a Vidarian Lowe or Demontre Jacobs, right? This is a team captain, a guy who you have dubbed as a leader, obviously, not just voted upon by his teammates, but also coaches brought him in as sort of that secondary guy. And so, once Bentley went down, or was that when? Yeah, because Peppers was a replacement. I forget what it was. But regardless, Duggar's a captain. He's a guy you signed to an extension this offseason. Front office thinks of him as as one of these leaders and core guys moving forward. And, when you blow it like that, real conversations have to be had. Now, you wonder if they bench a guy like that. Peppers coming back could add a little wrinkle to that, adding a little bit more depth to that room. Obviously, different positions and different sort of ways they use each other, but still the
And one other thing, I feel like everybody getting mad that Elliott Wolf for re-signing Duggar feels like a lot of revisionist history. Oh, yeah. Because I know they keep saying it for everybody that they re-signed. It's like, please show me your receipts for when this actually happened. Because I don't remember.
If they let him walk, everyone would have been yelling at Elliott Wolf too. So
because I think the re-signings, we didn't really have any issue with them. Like the only one that you maybe could talk about is Kendrick Bourne, but they could cut him next year and they're fine. Kyle Duggar was widely regarded, not even in New England, widely regarded. Like, I know Mina Kimes loves him. People respect Kyle Duggar. That was the worst game I've ever seen him play. Yeah. It's an anomaly, right? We got to see what happens, but I just want to, we have to be honest with ourselves and remember that we can have our opinion of him now, but that is not how people felt. We thought he had a down season and would return to the form that we'd seen in his previous few seasons. That hasn't happened, obviously. You hope he can regain form, but let's not do the whole, they never should have re-signed him, because no one. There were people saying that maybe you shouldn't pay him a lot of money, and I can get that. I understand that. But let's not act like re-signing him, period, was this terrible, terrible move.
No, I'm with you. And we'll see how they handle it. Obviously not the best game from Duggar. So we will see. I don't know how easy it's going to be, like I said before, to bench a starter captain of his status on this team. But if it has to be done, it has to be done. So we'll see how Maye and the guys handle that. All right, we're going to get into Drake Maye. That's what everybody wants to know. That's what everybody wants to see. So we'll break down some good stuff, some bad stuff from Maye from Sunday. But before we do, let's hear from our friends at Game Time. We love Game Time. It's the exclusive ticketing partner of the CLNS Media Network. It's the best way to go watch your teams play. It's obviously football season. It's Thanksgiving football season. Patriots coming up this weekend against the Indianapolis Colts. And right now, if you head over to Game Time, you can get into Foxborough for as little as $91 on the Game Time app. Not too shabby to watch Drake Maye and this team play. They also have the new feature called Game Time Picks. It makes getting those tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier, filtering out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I've been using it for Celtics games as well. They have the all-in pricing feature, which I love because instead of checking out, getting all the fees, getting all the tax, getting all the nonsense on the other end, all you got to do is turn on the all-in pricing feature, and it shows you exactly what you are going to pay. So that's Game Time Picks. That's all in price. And they also have seat views. You can see a panoramic view of your seat in the app to show exactly where you're going to sit in the stadium. And they also have their lowest price guaranteed. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it, Taylor?
Game time.
It is game time, and it's also time to break down Drake Maye. The Patriots quarterback goes 22 of 37 on Sunday, throws for 222 yards, a fabulous touchdown, a crummy interception, and tough strip sack fumble, 2 turnovers. Guy can't stop turning it over. We're going to bring in the good stuff. We're going to bring in the bad stuff from Maye as well. His lowest completion percentage of the season in a full game played. Thought that was an interesting nugget. Yeah, it did look like it. It wasn't his best game, but still flashed some brilliance. So Taylor, break it all down for us. What did you see from number 10 on Sunday?
Yeah, so generally, I mean, he was in a tough spot because as we know, the pressure was rampant. There were several times where it didn't seem like he was on the same page as guys like Demario Douglas. It feels like they're still trying to find their sync, especially when it comes to attacking zone coverage. We know Pop is excellent against man zone, still a young player, still trying to figure out how to be his best in the NFL. What I'm going to really focus on here is the scrambling from Drake Maye, because when he did have positive plays, a lot of the time it was because of him using his legs. We've talked about there were other weeks where he stayed in the pocket and picked guys apart on short and intermediate throws. This was not one of those games. He really didn't have a ton of opportunities to do that, so he had to have put together some Herculean efforts. Also completed his first deep pass in 3 or 4 weeks, and it was one of the coolest plays that he's had since he's come to the Patriots. So let's start off with this one. This was early on in the game. We are going to get a play action concept from the Patriots to mark. This kind of reminded me of a Dolphins type of concept where they used a lot of deep stop routes, the Patriots. A lot of those really, I felt, to try to take advantage of the zone coverage you see a lot from the Dolphins. So you're going to get the deep curl from Kayshon Boutte, and then you're going to get Demario Douglas in motion across the formation. He is going to go upfield, kind of like what you see with Tyreek Hill and those guys, and he's going to run an out route really well, by the way. And then you're going to have Hunter Henry blocking, then releasing to the flat. Antonio Gibson on the play fake. He's going to stay in to block. The Dolphins running a bit of a tricky coverage here. So after the motion, they're going to have this safety who's down right now actually take the deep third. Then you get deep thirds on the outside. This defender pretty much playing the flat with Jalen Ramsey in the slot, just matching Demario Douglas's coverage. So it kind of looks like quarters a little bit, but really I think it's just a cover 3 match. And then you're going to have a blitzer right here. I think it's a green dog blitz, though. And a green dog is when the running back stays in the pass block. You either have the option to drop into coverage, or you can say, hey, I'm going to insert into the pass rush because we want to overload them. That's what you're going to see from the linebacker. Now, Demario Douglas going in motion. La-di-da-di-da. Burst upfield. Now, Drake Maye, play fake, gets the top of his drop. Immediately, you have a loss on the right side. This is what I was talking about, where Michael Jordan struggled on these pulls. Immediately gets swimmed. Drake Maye sees there's a soft edge, gets outside the pocket for a nice gain early on in the game. Also love him outrunning Anthony Walker to get to the edge here. That speed for Maye, protects himself, puts his shoulder down, falls ahead for positive yardage. Really nice decision there from him after getting quick pressure. Now we've got a critical 3rd and 9 situation. Obviously, late in the game, it was quite out of hand, but still, you're not totally out. Yep, you still have a chance to maybe get back in this.
Still 3 possessions.
Exactly. So, again, you're going to see a lot of curls here. You're going to get one from the outside, Kayshon Boutte. Or, I'm sorry, this is Javon. Oh, I'm sorry, it's Kendrick Bourne.
That's KB at the bottom. Yep.
My glasses are so fuzzy. It's my oil from my damn eyelashes. Anyway, you get a sit route from Demario Douglas. You're going to see this a couple times. You're going to get a deep dig from Kayshon Boutte. And once again, this curl, then a couple blocks before releasing into the flat. The Dolphins, more zone coverage. You're going to get quarters to the boundary side, then you're going to get cover 2 to the field side where you have the 2 wide receivers, and then this mug defender is going to drop into coverage. Now, we're going to focus here on Kendrick Bourne. Now, we talked about it. Kendrick Bourne has, been trying to work his way back, had a nice performance last week. I thought this week he and Drake Maye were more on the same page on scrambles. We saw that a couple times, and we'll see it right here. So Drake takes a snap. Immediate pressure on the inside. Mike Nwenu takes an L. Calais Campbell kind of gives him a little bit of pressure over there on the twist. Drake Maye stiff arms Calais Campbell and then manages to exploit Kendrick Bourne finding space. And I really love, one, not just Drake Maye with the stiff arm and getting this out before he gets absolutely clobbered, ends up on the ground, but nice job by Kendrick Bourne understanding, these 2 defenders aren't paying attention to me. They're trying to defend Drake and potentially Hunter Henry. That gives him a little bit of room and also responds to try to find the best space to get open. Really nice awareness there from Kendrick Bourne. And we're going to see it again later on in the game. This time in the 4th quarter, 6 minutes left to go. Still not really a competitive game, but you're still fighting because you're Drake motherfrickin' Maye. All right, now the route concept.
That was close.
Yeah, I wasn't close. I knew what I was doing. So another all curls concept. I think this is Hank. I don't want to get in trouble and say the wrong thing, but basically you get the deep curls on the outside, and then you're going to get a sit over the middle with 2 delayed releases to the flat. Coverage-wise, shocker, more split safety zone from the Dolphins. They love this stuff. This is going to be just a pretty typical Tampa 2 defense from them. Once again, Kendrick Bourne going to make a play for his quarterback on a scramble drill. Drake Maye drops back. And again, Demontre Jacobs. I'm sorry. Oh, no, that's
City.
That's City. He also, so I thought he was better than he's been in games past, City, but there were also the exact same things that I've been talking about where everyone's like, why isn't City playing? And I'm like, he took some pretty quick losses in the preseason. And I know that he's a 4th-round pick and everything. He's still getting the strike system under his belt. Demontre Jacobs struggled, but he did as well. Obviously, you saw it there, but you get pressure from multiple angles. Drake Maye stepping up a little bit and firing this one. Great job by Kendrick Bourne also coming back to the ball while he was under duress. Better look at it from the end zone angle here. Now, going to get the ball. You're going to get the quick pressure. See what I mean? Try strike with the one hand. You always talk about the independent hand use. Chop Robinson was very well aware that was coming. He gets right under it. You also get Michael Jordan, like I mentioned earlier. Put on skates here. He gets walked back. Drake, first of all, he's actually looking to the right side. He's trying to hit. I'll actually go back and make it a little easier to see. I'm sorry about that. So he actually wants, I think, this route from Kayshon Boutte, but obviously, as you can see right there, he's getting pressured. So what does he do? I love how quickly he made this decision, too, because you see.
Knowing where Kendrick's going to be. Yep.
They're to the right, and as soon as he feels that pressure, he knows he should have Kendrick Bourne. As he's fading away and getting hit, makes this throw. Kendrick Bourne does a great job coming back downhill, because if he doesn't, this might be an interception for Jalen Ramsey. Drake Maye put his trust in his receiver. The receiver paid it off. Really nice conversion there. Breaks the tackle as well, Kendrick Bourne. Starting to build some momentum. Really like what I've been seeing from him lately. Now, creme de la creme, baby. 4th and 15, deep bomb touchdown from Drake Maye. This play was freaking nuts. All right, so this is going to be a vertical concept. Basically, you're going to get 2 in-breakers from the tight ends. You're going to get an out and up from Jalen Polk. I think it's an out and up. Honestly, he doesn't run it super convincingly. It's kind of hard to tell. And then just a shallow crosser from Kayshon Boutte. Dolphins, once again, in a cover 6 where you've got quarters or cover 4 over to the side with the 3 receivers, and then cover 2 to the single receiver side. We're going to let this run. Austin Hooper, he's going to be the guy making this play. Drake Maye obviously doing a great job to create an opportunity to even give this play a chance. More quick pressure off that right edge. Dropping back. Oh, gets outside of it. Scramble, scramble, scramble. Looking downfield, trying to find somebody. Austin Hooper, great awareness from him right here. Seeing that the quarterback is scrambling, splitting these 2 defenders, both of whom completely lose him, and then just settling and being like, hey, Drake, I'm right here. Just give me the ball. Just give me the ball. Drake Maye gets outside the pocket, lets this one go right before he is about to take a hit. Doesn't, thank goodness. Austin Hooper makes the catch, gets into the end zone. That was one of the coolest plays we've seen from Drake Maye. The arm talent, the mobility to actually get around the pass rush and be able to give this play a chance. 4th and 15. This is why when Drake Maye's on the field, you always think you have a chance to win the game. He literally is a threat to score on any single play. Now, also, I don't know if he was just tired or what, but it looks like he takes a while to get up here. Ramondre Stevenson,
he did. Leans on him.
By the way. I love this. I love the little hug they did there. But yeah, I hope he's all right. We'll need to, make sure we monitor.
Yeah, before we get into this, I just the thing that of the many things that have been so impressive about Drake Maye is the off-platform ability to put the ball exactly where he wants it. Like the throw to Kendrick, the throw to Hooper. There, we've seen it a bunch of times thrown across his body. Like that's obviously, but like that's not easy. Like a lot of times, quarterbacks will try and do that, and they sky it, they dig it into the ground. It's not easy to do it when you don't have a base. So his ability, much like I hate to do the comparison already, but the Mahomes and the Allens and the Herberts of the world, like those guys who can just throw it no matter what and put it right on their guy, that's what Drake Maye can do. And that's what I think is one of the many things that make him such a special player.
Like how many times we've seen that dude throw like pretty far without his feet on the ground.
Right.
Like, just the amount of torque he's able to create on his own. And obviously just the arm period is crazy. But
yeah,
this
big
is
butt
the
here
thing that he's got to cut. Now, there's a ton of things about Drake Maye's game that I'm okay with still being raw. He's showing great improvement. The interception we talked about on the post-game show, I'm not really putting that on him. That was a remarkable effort from the defense. Those guys get paid too. The running back was open when he threw it. The guy peeled off. You're not really expecting that to ever happen. But these strip sacks, this was the 4th time this season Drake Maye's been strip sacked, and maybe the most egregious example. We've talked about it in the past. A lot of the time, it's pressure coming off the blind side. He doesn't really see it coming. He's holding on to the ball and gets clobbered, and he gets knocked out of his hands. This, he admitted, was not a good play. He tries to swim the defender, but we'll break down exactly how it happens. But this was like a glaring rookie mistake that this is not sustainable. You got to cut this. Mayo said, I know he'll grow as a player, but he knows that he's got to protect football better. So, where are we? There we go. All right, so I think what this protection is going to be from the offensive line is a half slide towards the right, and basically Michael Jordan and Vidarian Lowe are essentially man blockers one-on-one, and with that, you also, I believe, have Ramondre Stevenson blocking the second-level defender, because typically in these situations, you want to do what's called big on big. So everybody on the line of scrimmage you want blocked by an offensive lineman. Guys at the second level, you'd rather have blocked by a running back, especially somebody like Ramondre Stevenson, who's very proficient there. Now, the Dolphins dial up a little bit of trickery. The Patriots do this all the time. They're going to drop both of their edge defenders, so the tackles end up not actually blocking anybody directly. Then you're going to get a little bit of a twist here from these guys who are standing up, and the Calais Campbell and Zach Sealer are basically just going to try to penetrate the B gap right here. It's not going to work to the right, but it's going to work pretty well on the left. Now, Zach Sealer is the defensive tackle we're going to be paying attention to. This is another one of those examples, like I mentioned earlier, of Michael Jordan seemingly not giving Vidarian Lowe the help he should and going to the wrong assignment. Because remember, like I mentioned, Ramondre Stevenson should be blocking him. If everybody was rushing, Michael Jordan should be blocking Sealer, Vidarian Lowe should be blocking Emmanuel Ogbah, and then Ramondre Stevenson blocks a second-level defender. Instead, Vidarian Lowe barely gives any help, right? He sees that inside color and immediately peels off. This puts Vidarian Lowe in a really tough position because he's positioned to try to block Ogbah. You can see it. He's trying to be aware of, like, okay, if there's any penetration, I'll give some help. But I don't think he realizes he has to block Zach Sealer, who already has the leverage advantage by alignment. Mike, and you can even also see Ramondre Stevenson. He's looking at 20, goes to block 20, and is like, wait a minute. Okay, you got him? All right, bet. All right, I'm just going to kind of help out, I guess. Vidarian Lowe loses the inside track, and then Drake, like, you can't do this. You cannot do this.
Nope.
Obviously, we saw him stiff-arm defenders like several times in this game. He can do it, but when you are falling backwards and the ball is hanging out like that, that's a massive risk, the kind of thing that you really don't see him do very often, where it's just like a glaring, like, oh my God, I don't know why you're deciding to do this. Like, don't go backwards. He usually does a very good job of not going backwards in the pocket, but here tries to make him miss. Sealer shows great awareness to capitalize on this, knocks the ball out. Miami recovers.
Yep.
Now, again, pass protection did not do Drake any favors there. All right. I don't even know that he had anywhere to go with the ball because this is instant pressure. You need to eat this sack. The situation, I understand, you're not totally in the game yet, but you can't afford this penalty. Completely avoidable. Put it in your stomach, put two hands on the ball, get down. But that was the one glaring issue I had with him in this game in terms of just knowing exactly what he did wrong, because the chemistry seemed like it was off, like I mentioned, and I kind of want to stay away until I can ask people what was going on there. But again, that one is just an egregious error. He's got to get that out of his game. No more strip sacks the rest of the season.
Yep. No, you got to clean it up. It's one of those error repeater things, right? Where Mayo said you can't repeat errors, and he's repeated that one several times. And it's a play where just cut your losses and don't make a bad play worse. Vidarian Lowe already lost the rep. You already have a guy basically in your lap. Just eat it, live to see another down, put two hands on the football and fall. Again, you mentioned the stiff arms earlier. He's a guy who can make plays out of structure, out of the pocket, but sometimes it's just like, okay, what's the, risk reward, assess it in the moment, tuck the ball and fall. He doesn't do it. Hopefully he continues to learn from it. But that's kind of that. That's the Drake Maye film. That's the Patriots versus Dolphins recap.
And also, I'm going to ask Ramondre about that pass protection. Yeah. If I'm wrong about it, I'll correct, because I don't know everything. I'm literally just guessing the best I can. So I know I see a lot of comments about it. I'll double check. I always do. Don't worry. But that was just, my impression of it. And it just is a pattern that we see typically with Michael Jordan with those line games. I want to say that.
Yep. No, for sure. We do have a super chat. So thank you. We appreciate it. And this kind of can close it out for us. Don't freak out about this game. Miami's a house of horrors for the Patriots. Bill and Tom had a losing record there as well. Pat's 17-43 all time in Miami. Did you know that it was that bad?
No, I'm not surprised at all. Remember, we want to talk about the coaching decisions. Remember that time that Gronk was the safety on a play where there was no chance the ball was going to get into the end zone? Remember that?
Yep, that's hey.
Nobody's perfect.
No. Yep, we'll leave it at that. Patriots now 0-7 versus Tua Tagovailoa in the Hawaiian quarterback's young career. And Patriots move on 3-9 after losing to the Dolphins 34-15 on Sunday night. That's going to do it for our Dolphins recap here on Patriots Daily. We hit on Jabril Peppers. We hit on the locker room. We hit on potential lineup changes. And, of course, we hit on Patriots quarterback Drake Maye. If you checked in early or later on in the show, you can obviously head back and watch the rest of it. Another super chat, no comment, just some cash. We appreciate it, Rob. We'll still throw you on there. But yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for tuning in. We will be back later in the week, Thanksgiving week. So we'll keep you guys posted as to when and where we're going to be doing our pods. Patriots are in Foxborough tomorrow, off Thursday, or in Foxborough tomorrow, Wednesday, off Thursday, back Friday, before taking on the Colts on Sunday, where me and Taylor will be as well for pregame, postgame, all of your coverage from Foxborough. So keep it here on the channel. Rate, review, subscribe, like the video, do all that good stuff. Follow us on Twitter at TKyles39. And we got another one. Thanks. Oh, now we shout it out. Nice. Taylor, you couldn't even put mine. Oh, now you got to give another $1.99 and say shout out to Mike and Taylor for being.
I think the first one was supposed to say Mike, shout out Mike for being awesome.
There
and maybe
we go.
You just got deleted by accident. It's okay, Robin Fish. It's okay. Mistakes.
Yeah, no, we're joking. It's all good. But thanks. Do we just stay here as people continue to throw in the super chats? I mean, come on. I was gonna close it out.
Save it for the next show. Next show.
Good call. Good call. Because we gotta get out of here. So thanks for watching. We'll be back soon. Keep it locked in. Hey, there it is. It's like a telethon. It's like a Black Friday week like radio telethon or something. I don't know. Maybe we give it another few. Nah, you know what? Save it. Bring it to the next one. We'll be back soon. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And we will see you next time. Peace out, everyone.